The story starts in London in 1862, where we see a girl named Amelia traveling to a city with her sister, Antonia. On the way, she has a dream in which her husband is falling from a hot air balloon. Startled by this vision, she becomes very scared and gets out of the car. Antonia comes to her and says, "Maybe we should end this journey here," but Amelia insists, "No, I will do what I've planned." The story then shifts to our second main character, James, a weather reporter by profession. However, in that era, such a post didn't exist because there was no way to predict the weather in advance. James aims to change this. He plans to ascend 30,000 feet, higher than anyone has ever gone before, and make a world record. His friend John comes to warn him, saying, "The weather is bad today. You shouldn't go up." Meanwhile, Nad, the man who owns the place and has invested money in the record attempt, also arrives. Nad demands, "Why is it taking so long to take off?" James explains, "The weather is bad right now." Impatient, Nad insists, "I want you to take off today or my money will be wasted." James reassures him, "Don't worry, I will make this record today." Suddenly, there's a commotion as Amelia arrives. She will be the pilot of the balloon. Amelia entertains the crowd with her charm and theatrics, which everyone enjoys. She wanted to bring her dog along, but James forbids it. Ignoring him, she sneaks the dog on board. As the balloon begins its ascent, Amelia notices a man standing in the crowd who unsettles her. She hesitates for a moment, but then brushes off her fear and continues. Later, we learn who this man is. Once the balloon is at some height, Amelia takes the dog and unexpectedly throws it out. Everyone is shocked, including James. Amelia shouts, questioning why he did it, but then they see the dog's parachute open, allowing it to land safely. James is still unhappy with Amelia's action and asks her to be more serious. James, who is initially annoyed, is mesmerized by the view. From a height of 1,200 feet, they see the entire city below, a breathtaking sight. James spots a building he once climbed to stargaze, and now, from this height, he feels like he is living his dream. But soon, trouble begins. Clouds start forming around them. At this point, the story shifts to James's past in London, where he presented his theory in a library filled with prominent people. He explained, "I can predict the weather. I can tell when it will rain, and when the sun will come out." However, the audience laughed at him. One scientist mocked, "We are scientists, not fortune tellers." Everyone dismissed him as mad, but James was determined to prove them wrong. Back in the present, the balloon reaches a height of 5,000 feet. James writes down their location, speed, and altitude on a piece of paper, ties it to a pigeon, and releases it. The pigeon flies down to John, who can then track their progress. Suddenly, dark clouds surround them. They lose their sense of direction, and Amelia begins having visions of the unknown man again. It is revealed that this man is her late husband, who died years ago after falling from a hot air balloon. As if things weren't bad enough, James receives an electric shock, which is equally terrifying for both of them. Soon after, it begins to rain, and strong winds push the balloon into a spin. Trapped in this chaos, Amelia falls out of the basket, but James catches her just in time and pulls her back in. Acting quickly, Amelia starts throwing all the sandbags out of the balloon to reduce its weight, hoping to rise above the storm clouds. The wind continues to swirl violently around them, but after some time, they manage to break through the clouds and see sunlight above. Both are overjoyed. They narrowly escaped death. Meanwhile, below, John is anxiously trying to locate the balloon through a telescope. But he does not see them either, which makes him a little nervous. During this, a small child approaches him and insists he look at the balloon. The child sees the balloon, and James notices its reflection falling on the distant clouds. Amelia also starts shouting in excitement. This view and moment become very memorable for both of them, as they were surrounded only by clouds and sky, far and wide, with nothing else in sight. After some time, Amelia has another vision of her husband's death. This time, we learn how he fell, a memory she has never been able to forget. To help her feel better, her sister takes her to a party. It is at this party that Amelia meets James for the first time. They have an engaging conversation during which James talks about his weather prediction theory. Amelia finds his ideas strange and, knowing the potential consequences, asks him to leave. However, James tells her, "I want you to become the pilot of my balloon. I want to make a world record." At first, Amelia refuses, but later she thinks of her husband, for whom hot air balloons were everything. Remembering him, she says yes. The next day, she begins preparing the balloon with some helpers. Her sister warns her, "You are making the same mistake again. This time, make sure James knows that your happiness lies with him, not with balloons." Hearing this, Amelia becomes scared and starts doubting her decision. Back in the present, Amelia is still sitting sadly, reflecting on her story. In the meantime, butterflies land in her basket. At first, Just a few appear, but soon thousands of butterflies surround her. Seeing this, her mood improves and she becomes happy. She begins enjoying the journey once again. She then tells James about her husband, Perry. While narrating her story, she becomes emotional and reveals that he died 2 years ago. Amelia says, "He was the bravest person I knew. He loved nature and wanted to do something no one else had ever done." Hearing this, James encourages her. The story then shifts to the past again. James is preparing for his flight when Amelia approaches him and says she can no longer support him. She is afraid of losing him. James responds, "You want to leave me in the middle of this? We are going to make a world record." He asks her why she is backing out and reminds her of the financial investments others have made in the project. At this point, James has no pilot to accompany him and goes home dejected. There, his father, who believes in astrology, reassures him, "It's okay, you will definitely find a solution." The next day, James meets with a wealthy man and a scientist, seeking support. However, they mock him. One of them asks, "Have you ever even been in a balloon? Do you know what happens at such heights due to lack of oxygen?" James invites them to join him, saying, "I have ideas that can help us go to greater heights." The scientist refuses, telling him to find another mad person. Despite this, James doesn't lose courage. Returning to the present, the balloon's altitude reaches 22,700 feet, then 22,800 feet, and finally 23,000 feet. James has now achieved a feat no man or woman has ever accomplished, setting a new world record. Overjoyed, he immediately sends the news down via a pigeon, so everyone will know. However, Amelia notices the temperature is dropping and insists they descend. James, driven by his passion, wants to see how much higher they can go. Amelia relents, saying, "Just a little higher, and then we will go down." The story shifts again to Amelia's past. John visits her house, bringing a book that belonged to James. In it, James has documented his theories and plans to ascend in a balloon. John tells her, "Only a few people get a chance to change the world, and that opportunity has been given to us. We should not let it go." He adds, "James has predicted snow today. If it doesn't snow, he will leave." Amelia, once again lost in her husband's memories, visits his grave. She talks to him, struggling to decide whether to support James. As she stands there, it begins to snow. She takes this as a sign and decides to support James. Now the story returns to the present, where they have reached a height of 26,000 feet. The cold has become intense, with the temperature dropping to -5 degrees Celsius. James tries to send another pigeon, but it does not survive the extreme cold. Undeterred, James decides to continue climbing. He begins throwing items off the balloon to lighten its load and ascend further. However, Amelia stops him, insisting they cannot continue, but James refuses. This leads to an argument between the two. Due to the lack of oxygen, James's nose begins to bleed. Still, he says to Amelia, "Your husband died because of his negligence, and I will do the same, but for science." This angers Amelia, who shouts, "You don't even know what happened to my husband or how he died. He was neither a coward nor careless." She then reveals the truth. "The day he died, I wanted to go higher just like you. I was the pilot, and I insisted on taking the balloon higher, which caused a hole to form. My husband sacrificed his life to save me. His death was not his fault, but mine." Hearing this, James regrets his words and apologizes, agreeing to descend. However, descending is not so simple. James's condition worsens as he struggles to breathe in the freezing cold and low pressure. Amelia decides to release some gas to make the descent easier, but the ice on top of the balloon had frozen everything. Realizing there's no other option, she decides to climb to the top of the balloon to remove the ice, risking her life. As she climbs, she struggles against the intense cold and the ice-covered balloon. She ties herself with a rope for safety, which helps her avoid falling when she slips. Reaching the top, she tries to clear the ice, but it doesn't budge. Finally, she uses her feet to break it, managing to release the gas. The balloon begins descending slowly. At a height of 37,000 feet, Amelia loses consciousness due to the lack of oxygen and falls, slipping down the side of the balloon. Below, people are anxiously praying for their safe return. Amelia, still alive, grabs the rope and climbs back into the basket. She finds James unconscious, but soon notices he regains consciousness as they descend rapidly and the oxygen level improves. Amelia notices the snowfall has stopped, but their descent has become dangerously fast. James spots the gas valve, which is fully open and leaking gas rapidly. Their balloon descends to 18,000 feet. In an attempt to slow the descent, James begins throwing more weight off the balloon, but it proves ineffective. Desperate, James separates the basket from the balloon and climbs onto the ropes. This also fails to make a significant difference. Amelia, feeling responsible, admits, "This is all my fault. I open the gas valve without realizing the consequences. Overcome with guilt, she attempts to jump off the balloon to save James, but he stops her just in time. James then cuts the ropes of the balloon, which transforms it into a parachute. The balloon stabilizes, and they land safely. Though injured from the impact, both of them survive. They embrace each other, relieved to be alive. A few days later, their photograph is published everywhere, and the world learns about their record-breaking feat. James's father, reading the news, proudly declares, "That's my son James, who has done it." James is soon invited to the royal court, where scientists who once mocked him now applaud him for his success. He shares his theories, explaining it's possible that there are layers around our Earth with different weather conditions. With time, we will be able to predict rainfall and other weather phenomena. His words earn him respect and admiration, and the audience claps in his honor. As the saying goes, the people who are considered crazy are often the ones destined to change the world. In the final scene, we see Amelia and James embarking on another journey, ready to face new adventures together. So that's it. Hope you enjoy the story. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more videos.